Mount Roraima. We'll start with a place so remote that, until recently, had never been extensively explored, and one that some experts have suggested could possibly harbor ancient forms of animal life, like dinosaurs. While that last part may seem a bit extreme, it isn't entirely off base. Deep in the Venezuelan rainforest, there are a series of plateaus that sit higher than 9,000 feet off the forest floor. When looking from above, it appears that the land here is literally floating in the sky among the clouds. These are called the tepuis, which is another word for mountain. The most popular of the bunch is known as Mount Roraima, and there are very special character traits of this well-preserved land. For starters, there are more than 5,000 plant species that grow here, and only here. Experts suggest that the area formed millions of years ago and looks pretty much the same as it did roughly 20 million years ago. But come on, suggesting that there may in fact be dinosaurs somewhere up there, that seems a little far-fetched, doesn't it? There have been several people to make the trip of the last decade, none of them, though, finding any evidence of that. But like Uwe George, a famous German explorer back in 1989 said of his sole trip to the top of Mount Roraima, the terrain is so difficult that only a fraction of the Tepui's 44 square miles has so far been explored. With modern technology, more and more people have been able to get up to the once sacred world known as Mount Roraima, but no one has reported any signs of dino life. Well, yet anyway. Number 9. Sea of Stars. Another breathtaking sight on our wonderful planet is this one, the glittering Sea of Stars, which can be seen on the Badu Island located in the Maldives. If you're like me, then you're used to seeing stars in the sky, and if I'm being completely honest, that's exactly where I'd like for them to stay. Well, because stars are essentially gigantic fireballs that, well, never mind. Regardless of that, tourists flock from all over the world for a chance to see this wild phenomenon. As the sun sets, here the waves coming into the shore glow in eerie blue color, almost as if they're being lit up by a sea of stars. When the water crashes, you can see the blue hue light up, making the water almost appear as if it's electric. But what is really happening here? Surely there aren't real stars, or worse, electricity in the water. The answer is quite remarkable. Tiny plankton have evolved to glow in time of distress, a process utilized to distract or startle fish that may be looking for an easy snack. The amount of glow you'll get to see when you visit the Maldives is all dependent on how the plankton grew throughout the year and also what the climate is like during your visit. If you'd like to get the most bang for your buck and see as much of these stars in the sea as possible, it's suggested that you plan your trip to take place between the months of June and February. Number 8. Rainbow Mountain. Up next is another very unique and extremely beautiful landscape, and this one just happens to be regarded as the most unique and spectacular geological feature on Earth. The Yawson Gate Mountain, or what's otherwise known as the Rainbow Mountain, can be found in the Peruvian Andes. With one glance, you can see just how unique and colorful this landscape truly is. The secret here is that each colored layer represents a different mineral composition, which all come together to form something that looks like something straight out of a Disney movie. The locals here consider the area to be very sacred, and many come here to log their daily worship. Scientists say that this area represents centuries of wicked weather, erosion, and just the sheer talents of Mother Nature. Number 7. Fairy circles. Africa is known for some treacherous terrain because of their bone-dry deserts, but there's one desert in particular that's been housing a unique occurrence that no one has seemed to figure out just yet. In the Namib Desert in southern Africa, there are millions of mysterious patterns in the ground that have come to be known in the science world as fairy circles. Now I know that first question popping up in everyone's mind is, oh, those fairies? And to answer that, no. Actually, heck no. those fairies don't exist, silly, but the mysterious patterns in the earth, which range from 12 feet to up to 114 feet in diameter, are essentially bare patches of soil that are then being surrounded by rings of grass. No one really knows how they're formed or why they're here, but there are two main theories. One is that there are termite nests beneath the surface. The suggestion is that each circle is a termite colony, which would mean that there are a whole lot of termites over in the African deserts. The other theory is that the patterns are made by competition for water and that the bare areas in the ground harbor more rainfall, which the grass growing around the edge of the circle can easily access. Either way it goes, these fairy circles are certainly mysterious. Number 6. Mobile Cave. We'll move on. For over 5 million years, this next impossible to comprehend area has been completely isolated from the rest of the world. But in 1986, the Mobile Cave was unsealed as the Socialist Republic of Romania was looking for a place to build a nuclear power plant. For an area that had never seen a human being, you would think that the inside would be completely and utterly uninhabitable. But everyone was shocked when they discovered what was already living deep in the cave. More than 40 different species, including extremely unique and previously undiscovered centipedes, leeches, spiders, and even scorpions. The crazy thing, however, is that with no light ever entering the cave, the creepy crawlers living inside of it can't see a thing, which somehow makes it even spookier. Number 5. Ringing rocks. Pop quiz. What sound does a rock make when you hit it with a hammer? If you thought to yourself it'd be a soft thud, or maybe even a clanking or chipping noise, then I'd be right there with you. But there are a group of rocks in the great state of Pennsylvania that make an entirely different sound, and an expert would be able to even craft out some pretty nice music if they struck the right ones. The Ringing Rocks County Park, spread out over about 8 acres in Pennsylvania, produces a very strange yet delightful metallic clanging noises whenever struck with said hammer or even another smaller rock. To be more specific, the rock itself only makes an inaudible low-frequency noise when it's hit. But when several of these boulders are grouped together and then one is struck, the sounds bounce off of each other, creating the metallic, almost xylophone-esque noise that you can hear right here. Number 4. Lake Karachay. Of all the seemingly impossible places that we've seen today, none of them have been a result of mankind. They've all been naturally formed and thus naturally beautiful or scary. But up next, over in Russia, there's a place so disastrously handled by man that standing next to it for an hour could have literally killed you. It's called Lake Karachay, and according to experts, this is the most polluted place on Earth. One of the biggest nuclear facilities in all of Russia, Mayak Production Association, was also one of the most ill-prepared. Factory meltdowns happened all the time. Officials simply dumped nuclear waste into the nearby river, and the owners of the building and everyone else involved simply covered it all up. At its height, this area saw a 21% higher rate of people with cancer, while birth defects were up nearly 25%. 65% of its population reported radiation sickness, and get this, doctors were instructed to label the illness as, quote, special disease in an effort to cover up the crime. Number 3. Gruner Sea. From a disastrous lake to a beautiful yet unconventional one, our next number takes us out to Styria, Austria, where in the town of Tragos lies Gruner Sea, which literally translates into Green Lake. And with one look at this body of water, it isn't hard to see why. This green-looking water, which really isn't green, gets its color from a very unique process. For starters, during the winter months, the lake is honestly nothing more than a small pond. The average depth is just 3 to 7 feet deep, but during the summer, the snow melts from the ice caps atop the mountains, then runs down the hills and fills the lake. During June, the water level reaches a depth of over 30 feet. divers and even scuba divers, mostly tourists, will come here to explore beneath the water, which looks green from outside of it. The sights to behold here are quite unique, as the water covers park benches, the grass, trees, and even a bridge. Truly a wonderful and special sight if you're ever able to see it in person. Number 2. Double Tree of Casorzo. How many of you great folks out there have ever heard of the amazing Double Tree of Casorzo? Well, you've seen and we've shown in the past rare and natural deformities in animal life, right? Whether it's a snake with 2 heads or something else similar. Well, in Piemonte, Italy, there's actually a tree that's growing out the top of another tree. And what's even crazier is that the two aren't even the same type of tree. Up top, we have a cherry tree, while down below is a mulberry. But how did something like this, something this unique and bizarre, come about? That is certainly a question that scientists are still trying to figure out. The most accepted theory, generally, is that a bird dropped a cherry tree seed on top of the mulberry. But of course, there's really no way to prove whether or not that is factual. Now, it does make me wonder, would I be able to grow like a strawberry patch on top of an apple tree? I mean, that way I could have all types of fruit in my backyard and I wouldn't even need to take up that much space. Number 1. The Crooked Forest. Over in West Poland, speaking of trees, is an entire forest of some of the strangest looking vegetation that you'll ever see. So, just to check the temperature of the room here, you've all seen what a regular tree looks like, right? No, I mean like they have leaves and a tree trunk and they usually just go straight up and down. But in the Crooked Forest, these trees have a very eerie feel to them, and it's not hard to see why. These pine trees have a 90-degree bend at the base, and they look extremely odd. And it isn't just a few of them that look like this. Somewhere near 400 different pine trees at about the 3 to 9 foot area in the trunk have that unique bend. There is no concrete answer as to why this has happened. Some suggest that the trunks were bent on purpose, but for what reason, I'm not entirely sure. Others suggest that the deformity could have happened during a wicked snowstorm, but what do you think it could be? And that was 10 scientifically impossible places that actually exist. Have you ever visited anything that you've seen on this list today? And if you haven't, would you? Make sure you comment down below with your favorite number on today.